There are three numbers that quietly change your entire financial life. Not your salary, your net worth. $10,000, 100,000, and 1 million. And here's the strange part. The money in between those numbers barely matters. It's crossing each line that flips something you can actually feel. The way you sleep, whether your money works or you do, and whether you ever get to stop. Most people never find out what changes at each one because nobody draws them the map. So let's draw it. By the end, you'll know exactly what unlocks at 10,000, at 100,000, and at 1 million, and why every milestone is easier to reach than the one before. The first milestone isn't about getting rich. It's about stopping the bleeding. Below $10,000, life runs you. Because when you have almost nothing saved, every surprise becomes a disaster. The Federal Reserve found that in 2024, only 63% of American adults could cover a surprise $400 expense with cash. Almost 4 in 10 could not. A flat tire, a vet bill, a cracked tooth. For millions of people, $400 isn't an annoyance, it's a crisis. So your early savings never get to grow, they get spent. You save $800, the car breaks, back to zero. Save it again, the boiler dies, back to zero. It feels like failing. It isn't. You're building on ground that keeps washing out. $10,000 is the first level ground, and you don't even need all of it to feel the shift. Vanguard's researchers went hunting for what actually predicts whether people feel financially okay. Not rich, just okay. The strongest signal wasn't income. It was having about $2,000 set aside for emergencies. $2,000 is the line between low-grade panic and being able to exhale. But here's the tax on this milestone. It's almost entirely you. Save $500 a month at 7%, and it takes about 19 months to reach 10,000. Break that $10,000 open and look inside. Roughly $9,500 is money you saved by hand. Only about $500 is interest. 95% grind. At this size, compounding is a rounding error. Your money is too small to help you carry it. Which raises the obvious question. If $10,000 barely earns anything on its own, then why is the next milestone the one that changes the game? Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner, one of the architects of one of the biggest fortunes on earth, is widely quoted as saying the first $100,000 is the hardest, and his advice was blunt. Get there any way you can. He wasn't talking about the money, he was talking about the machine. Here's what he meant in numbers. Go back to our saver, $500 a month, $6,000 a year, by hand. Somewhere around $86,000, something quietly flips. Your investments start earning more in a year than you could save in a year. That's the crossover. Below it, you are the engine, pushing the boulder uphill. Above it, the boulder starts rolling on its own. By $100,000, the machine is fully awake. At 7%, $100,000 earns about $7,000 a year, while you sleep. That's more than our disciplined saver could add with a full year of saying no. And this is where the whole thing starts to accelerate, thanks to a rule you can check on a napkin. The rule of 72. Divide 72 by your return, and you get the years it takes your money to double. 72 divided by 7 is about 10. So 100,000, left alone, becomes 200,000 in about a decade, without another cent from you. Reaching 100,000 takes our saver about 12 years of steady work, but it's the last milestone you have to mostly build yourself. Because after this one, the math picks up the shovel. So 100,000 is where your money stops needing you, which means the biggest milestone of all is the one you barely have to work for. You just have to not touch it. $1 million has a reputation problem. It sounds like yachts and mansions. It isn't. $1 million is quieter and more powerful than that. It's the point where your money can pay you a salary you never have to show up for. There's a well-known guideline called the 4% rule. The idea that you can withdraw about 4% of your savings a year, adjusted for inflation, and reasonably expect it to last decades. 4% of $1 million is $40,000 a year. $40,000 a year for the rest of your life without working. That's a real income, near the median for a single earner, generated by a pile of money instead of your time. And if you don't touch it at all, $1 million at 7% throws off about $70,000 a year. It grows faster than most people can spend. And don't let the word millionaire fool you into thinking it's common. In 2022, the average American household net worth was about $1,060,000, which sounds like everyone's a millionaire. But the average is a lie told by billionaires. The median, The actual middle household was about $192,700. Most people never cross the $1,000,000 line. But here's the secret the milestone map reveals. Crossing it is easier than crossing the first one, because by the time you're a millionaire, you're barely doing the work anymore. Here's the whole shape of it. With money left to compound at 7%, climbing from $10,000 to $100,000 takes about 34 years and adds $90,000. Climbing from $100,000 to $1,000,000 takes the same 34 years and adds $900,000. Same weight, 10 times the reward. The milestones aren't evenly spaced in effort. They get lighter. The first 10,000 is 95% you. The last 900,000 is almost entirely the machine. You do the hardest work first, when it's smallest and least rewarding, and the reward arrives last, when you're barely lifting. So don't measure your progress by how rich you feel today. Measure it by which line you've crossed. 10,000 and you can breathe. 100,000 and your money clocks in for you. 1,000,000 and you get to clock out. Get to the first line any way you can. The rest of the hill is on the machine. One honest question before you go. Of the 3 lines, which one would change your life the most right now? The 10,000 that finally lets you sleep? The 100,000 where your money starts working instead of you? Or the 1,000,000 that lets you walk away? There's no wrong answer, but the one you picked says everything about where you are. Tell me in the comments. And if you want to know how the people who already crossed these lines actually think about money, the mindset that gets them there, click right here.